Good day, folks. Welcome back to my neck of the woods. My name's Dika, where I share my experience, my knowledge, hoping to lessen your learning curve. So today I have another product review. This is a surf rod that I've been using for the last almost 2 years now, and I took it out. My striper season's right around the corner. Figured I'd do a review on it. It is the St. Croix Seage surf rod. This is a 10'6". This is a medium power, moderate fast action. It's rated for 20 to 50 for the line weight, and 3/4 to 4 ounces for the lure weight. It is a 70-30 rod, so it breaks down, obviously 70-30. The lower portion is there's no guides on it. So all the guides, what do you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guides. They're all on this top piece here, as you can see. All right. Obviously, I'll go over some specs right off the bat. I'm going to tell you what I think about the rod, how it fished, and my overall experience with it, which was quite spectacular. It's a really nice rod. I'm comparing it to the other rods that I've had in the past. I've had a Penn Battalion, I've had some Tsunami rods. I still fish with a Temple Fork Outfitters, which I love. But this is a great rod. It's an all-purpose rod. You can really use it for anything. I use it for striper and bluefish. The MSRP is $320 for this rod. I got it on J&H as like back order or something. I want to say I paid like $285 or $280 for it. Otherwise, but even at $320, I mean, it's still a great rod. All right, so I'm going to walk through, and obviously I'm going to tell you about what's going on with it. All right, so starting at the end here, has a cork buttstock here, and it starts with that shrink wrapped rubber. It has an excellent reel seat, by far the best reel seat that I've experienced, and I'll tell you about it in a minute. And then up at the top here, it's kind of like a spongy, like a leather wrap, very similar to like a tennis racket. It's good. I think it's eventually just going to wear off, as opposed to this type of grip, but we'll see. We'll see in the future. Like I said, I've used it for 2 seasons now, and I'm pretty tough on it. I use it quite often, and in the surf, in the salt water, and you can see outside of it, it's pretty good. So let's start with this reel seat here. They call this like an extra hood, so to speak, but it offers a little bit more support for some of those reels I've talked about in the past, like the Saltus, the Daiwa Saltus. When I've used it, I feel like it's like when there's a lot of tension on. There's a lot of reels out there that are kind of flimsy when they're seated inside the reel seat. The Daiwa Saltus, I found that's one of them, and this just offers a little extra support. And when you put your hand around it, it's just a little beefier, as opposed to some of them out there that are really, really skinny and flimsy. It's a hard plastic, hard composite plastic, and you can see there's not really a mark on it, and that's majority of where my hand is the whole time. This is a plastic thread that goes up and down. Haven't had a problem with it. There's no corrosion in it. I take good care of it. I try to wash it down each time. All right, so moving up, as I said, it's a 70-30 rod, so the back end of it here, there's no guides on that. So we're moving up on the rod here. The guides are made by they're Sea Guide guides, and they're aluminum, so you're not going to get the corrosion that you might get on some other stuff that may offer stuff. They do have the porcelain inserts. They're not Fuji guides. I like Fuji guides, but I think these are fine. They're adequate. And if you can see, one of St. Croix's kind of claim to fame when they came up with this rod is what they did is they angled the guides up. Now, they say, and I agree with them, that it avoids line tangles, and the line goes through the guides easier. Now, I'm not big to have line tangles in there, but that being said about line moving through this rod casts superior to any other rod that I've ever had. I've even matched it with a couple different reels. Sometimes it's the reel and the rod combo, and it just makes sense. I put a couple different reels on this, and it still casts like an absolute dream. Like I said, it's a 10-6, medium power, moderate fast action. It could just be that's working out for me, but it really casts. I have Tsunami Saltex, I have a Van Staal. I could put them on my TFO or even some of the other rods that I've had, and by far this just casts further and smoother. If you're using plugs or top water or bait or whatever you're using, as long as it falls within the parameters of the rod, it really casts better than any other rod that I've ever had. Now, I guess I'm attributing that to these guides, because that's the only thing that's different really, except for the way the rod's made up, and I'm going to get into that now. So St. Croix, when they made this rod, they wanted it to be an all-purpose rod, and they added some sort of technology to the rod. So they added something called ART. ART right there. They say it's, everyone's using that word technology every time they come up with something new. They do it in the hunting industry, they do it in the fishing industry, and they say it's advanced reinforcement technology. Now, the sort of thing behind it is when you're putting a lot of pressure on the rod, they say another rod, and I don't know if this is true or not because it's never really happened to me, or I probably never even noticed it. They say that when there's a lot of pressure on the rod will oval out, the rod will compress, and it will oval out, and the advanced reinforcement technology takes care of that. It's reinforced, and it will stop it from ovaling out, therefore giving you more strength and power within the rod. All right, now I've talked about the technology, right? There's another piece of this rod that I found to be superior. I usually fish sandy beaches for the most part, but if you're ever fishing in rocks or jetties and things like that, where sometimes you have to really control that fish, whether it's palming the reel or just tightening the drag down and pulling them out of the rocks, or preventing them from going into the rocks and snapping your line. I find that I had more control with this rod compared to other rods that I've had. Even the TFO, which is a spectacular rod. And maybe it's because of that ovaling out, where you lose a little bit of power, and sometimes on a rod. Now, some of the lower end rods, I've talked about the Penn Battalion in the past. When you hook up with a bigger fish, you kind of feel like that rod's going to break a little. I found that with some of the Tsunami rods, like the Airwave and the Blue Wave and stuff like that. I find that you feel like that rod's going to break. And after talking to people and doing a little research, it's the ovaling out of the rod that gives you that feeling. Now, it may not break, but this advanced reinforced technology is going to prevent it from breaking. And it's just going to give you that strength and durability and structure to the rod. I like it. I think it works. I think there's actually something to it. The other thing that they've added to this rod is called Veil. All it is just a paint job. It's a top coat. It's a multiple coats of top coat, but it's going to prevent from denting and scratching and other things that are going to compromise that rod over time. And and I 100% agree with it, and I've experienced it. This rod, outside of being dirty, really does not have, it's dirty, right? But it really does not have a dent or a scratch or a mark on it. And I have dropped it in the surf. I've dropped it on rocks. I've dropped it, I have sealed reels, and sometimes those reels go underwater depending on the severity of the surf that I'm fishing in. Like I said, outside of being dirty, it doesn't have a mark on it. And you know, as far as I do, that sometimes if you get a scratch or even a dent on it, that's going to potentially compromise that rod in the future. I'm going to hurry up with my video here. The sun's going down. It's potentially going to compromise that rod in the future. It's just going to be a weak point. So St. Croix did well with that. They did well with that ART. They did well with the Veil. Overall, it's a real spectacular rod. Like I said, it casts. It's my favorite rod now of all my rods. I'm gonna put my Van Staal on it, and my striper season is right around the corner. I've had no problems with the guides as far as like bending, or they're all pretty stiff. I can show you. They have the porcelain. Like I said, they're made by made by a company called Sea Guide, but they're really nice. They're really sturdy. They're reinforced. They look flimsy, but they're not at all. There's a lot of meat to the metal there. And even the top guide, which is probably the most important of all of them, it's really stout and it really holds well. I mean, you can even see that there's not even a scratch on that. And can't tell you how many times you've been walking down the beach and you're not paying attention. This hits the sand and it's like, I feel like you're gonna break it. So like I said, the MSRP is $320. If you do shop around, you can get some deals. Like I said, I got it from J&H. There's one other thing that I want to mention before I wrap up here. Like I said, this is a medium power, moderate fast action, but it's almost like a medium heavy, or even like a light heavy. It has more meat to it than other rods that I've used in the past that have, like, I like a medium rod because it's smaller, sometimes it's a little lighter, and I really like a rod to load up and really bend and be able to pin that fish, or have control over the fish when needed. That being said, like I said, this is an all-purpose rod. So if you're going to buy this rod and you like a medium heavy, I would get a medium. If you like a heavy, I would get, maybe a medium heavy. Just get one size down from whatever it is that you like, or just follow what the rod is, and you may be pleasantly surprised, like I am too. But this is closer to a medium heavy or a heavy based on its girth and how big it is compared to other rods that I have used. And granted, I haven't used every rod, but I've used a lot of them. Everything from a $30 rod up to $500, $600, $700 rods. And this is by far my favorite now. One, because it's really smooth when I cast. I don't think it matters the reel. I put a bunch of different reels on it. It just casts. The Tsunami Saltex and the Van Staal, they cast further just because of the way they're designed, in my opinion, and the way the spools are, and there's more line. They hold more line. And but I had the Daiwa Saltus on it, and it really casts a mile. I mean, better than the TFO, or better than some of the Tsunamis I've used, or better some of the Penn rods that I've used. Even I used a Lamiglas, excuse me, I used a Lamiglas rod. I personally don't like Lamiglas, but it just casts real smooth, and everything's smooth about it. It was put together well, quality material, and I don't know, I like it. I recommend it. So if you're in the market for one of these, the price is a little further up there than some other rods. But even my TFO, I spent $310 on it, and this spent $290, but I like this rod better. It's a better all-purpose rod. All right, that's all I got for you. Sub the channel. I'll talk to you guys later. Be well.